Well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to participate in this. There are so many topics around transition. As complicated as your lives are, there's that many topics. And so I am looking at job accommodations today. And for those of you with really young children, yes, this is about you too. So we'll move forward here. I think I have to put us into slideshow. Where are you? Perfect. Thank you. So first of all, as Carol and so many speakers before have talked about, transition is a complex process that is a long process, not a single event. It's made up of several sentinel events in your lives. And the earlier you start, the better. The literature talks about the transition age as being between 14 and 16 to 25 to 30. The process of acquiring knowledge and learning skills needed to maximize independence and self-sufficiency is what this phase of life is about. Not to be overlooked is the preparation of parents and preparation of providers for this event of separation and moving into these expectations of adulthood. Expect success. Attain the best education possible for your youth. Explore and set vocational goals early and review them often. For our children who haven't experienced disability, we start really young with what do you want to be when you grow up? We play with them, we role model with them. They do it with toys, we do it with costuming, the kinds of, thinking of Halloween coming up, the kind of costumes that we buy. Do you want to be a doctor or a fireman? Do you want to be a farmer? Do you want to be a wife? Do you want to be a mother? We are offering those things out, but we don't very often do that with our children with disabilities. So I encourage you to think about those kinds of things that you do with your typical children, with these individuals as well. Teach social coping skills along with personal hygiene and healthy boundaries. These are things that will trip you up in the employment setting. Adults with disabilities will tell you that going to camp was a sentinel event in their life, that for the first time they realized they could function separately from their parents, separately from the known routines, separately from the safety of the familiar. And it's tough for parents. It's tough for kids for those first days, but taking the time to prepare and get ready for that. And guess what? The best predictor of success in adult employment is. By the way, to follow Dr. Davis's suggestion about taking a little break, moms and dads, if you want to be entertained, just look up Dave Ingledow and Alice. Alice's mother is a photographer, and they do some amazing things. But as you see, they've set Alice up with her first chores in the household. Household chores really can lead to adult success. Some of the most powerful and cheap, inexpensive opportunities are in your broom closet. Starting to have your children wipe down the surface, carrying the dishes, even if it's just, splashing in the water, running the hose to rinse the dishes. Use techniques like switch technologies to run the blender, for example. Cause and effect is what you're really teaching them, and that they can contribute to this world around them. I found this interesting statistic, and I had to really kind of think about, did I give my son enough chores? It says, while 82% of adults reported having regular chores growing up, only 28% said they required of their own children. We've gotten so busy in this world that we've forgotten how important it is to, and all the things that we learn from being a part of and a contributor to running a household, and those translate into the world of work. Now, all youth need a good education, they need information about career options and exposure to that world of work, they need opportunities to socialize, they need strong connection with caring parents beyond their own close circle. One of the predictors of success in transition is how broad their social network is. So children who only know their parents as caregivers, who only socialize with their siblings or their first-ring cousins, are not going to do as well as those that have been exposed to children from other cultures, from other experiences, and across the spectrum of capabilities as well. Now, these are some proven strategies for youth with disabilities as they move into work experiences. The first is work-based learning experiences, and these should start early in school. For those of you that are fans of Malcolm Gladwell, and I am one, he's written a book called Outliers, and he tells us that it takes 10,000 repetitions to become excellent at something. So when you think about how am I going to provide 10,000 experiences for my child to learn those skills that they need to apply in the bigger world, in the world of work, in the social interactions, you got to start earlier. You'll never get those 10,000 in. So again, just early and frequently are key words around preparation for the world of work. Student-centered, individualized education plans should drive instruction, as opposed to instruction limiting the choices and setting the boundaries on what your child's experience is going to be from early childhood on through adulthood. Those IEPs are your tool. They're not primarily for the school, they are for the child. So be sure that you begin to help your instructors in your school to connect their instruction to those skills that your child is going to need as you go. Family involvement and support of education and career development can be really helpful. If you have an uncle or a cousin or a brother who lives on a farm, learning about the care of animals beyond the zoo, because they're in cages. So learning how do you have a horse eat oats out of your hand. Those experiences that are unique build on that sense of competence and success, and that confidence to try new things, even when they're a little nervous about them, are really important too. So look for those folks in your trust circle to begin to test the boundaries a little bit. Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that employers provide reasonable accommodations. Now, just as a youth moves from high school, where a lot of people are telling them what kinds of accommodations might work and what they might need, when you move into post-secondary education or you move into employment, it is up to the individual to identify what their disability is and what kinds of accommodations they need. This is a very different approach. I would really encourage you, for your children who use assistive technology, that proficiency with that device is really important. One of the barriers that many parents have encountered and young adults is that a lot of the equipment that they use through school may belong to the school. And if you move from elementary school to middle school and they have a different pool of equipment that they're drawing from, the child doesn't really get to build that proficiency with it. The other thing is that ability to articulate what it is that works for me. I have managed a clinic for adults with disabilities for 15 years, and I've hired people with disabilities, and it's very, very helpful for me, for those individuals to say, I need this kind of headset. I know that this will work for me. I need this text-to-speech program because I can use that most quickly. And so experimenting, again, early, and then building that proficiency with that tool is really going to help them, both in post-secondary environments as well as in school. And that means also when something goes wrong, can they direct somebody to fix it? Do they have an idea of what's gone wrong? Job accommodations, as I noted earlier, are a requirement, and it is the individual's responsibility to identify what that is. And there's three major areas to look at. One is, what are those environmental accommodations? So if you're really distractible, you don't want to be in a room with a lot of other things going on. Now, they may not be able to provide your own office or even your own cubicle, but think about ways in which you can create barriers to the other visual images or to sound. Maybe it's even a headset if you're in a room. So being able to think about how can you both look at the location, but also how do you create the work environment for success. This also includes ergonomic design. Some people like to stand when they work or have to shift because, and I can use my son for an example. My son has an attention deficit disorder and an anxiety issue, and if he has to sit still, his mouth has to go. And that doesn't work very well in work settings. So if he can stand up, if he can move around and do his work, he can focus and concentrate and get a lot more accomplished. So finding a work setting for him that could work required that he had to be able to move and that he had to be able to talk a lot, and guess what he's in? Marketing. And he's great, and he loves it, and people love him. Job coaching is also something to think about. So when you're learning a new task, when you're in a new environment, and you can model these things in the school system as well. Ticket to Work came into play a few years ago. It used to be the vocational rehabilitation was the only delivery mechanism that we had to match a person with a disability to an employment setting. Ticket to Work brought a new network of providers into play. And they're all accountable, and they don't get paid until their person gets to work. Now, there's good things and challenging things about that. The good thing is that you expect to see some level of success. The challenge for the youth and for the parent is to make sure that it's not just any old job, but really one that has a future, one that is something that's enjoyable, something that's going to engage the individual over the long haul. So don't settle necessarily for the greeter at Walmart unless that's really what the person wants to do. And believe me, I'm not dissing that job at all. That is for people who are social and great with those kinds of environments, are really comfortable meeting person after person after person, but that can be really fatiguing. And for people who have been educated in something entirely different or have interests in something entirely different, that's not going to be the job that's going to work for the long haul. So be insistent. And again, it has to be the individual who's going to be able to speak for themselves about that. Job shadowing, internships are fabulous. Volunteer programs where you have to show up on time, you have to be presentable, you have to be able to have practice boundaries so you're not interrupting other people from your work. You have to have good problem-solving skills. And if I had time today, I could go through all kinds of stories about those where people were really successful and those where people were challenged. And I want to tell you just an example about a young man who got a job as a receptionist. He was handling the phones for durable medical equipment. Now, he knew durable medical equipment. He knew name all the parts on his wheelchair. He could problem solve his wheelchair when something was wrong. So he had the potential to be really, really helpful. But he said to his boss one day, "Can't we just let these calls go to voicemail?" It was like, no, the idea was that you're the receptionist, you're receiving them, you're the customer service person, you're the personal touch that we want to bring to our customers. So miss the concept. The other thing is that he decided somewhere along the line that the bowel program that worked for him was he would just go ahead and use his diaper and defecate, and then at the lunchtime or the end of the day, he would change. Well, that didn't work too well for everybody else that had to work around him. One of the things that we see with individuals with cerebral palsy and spina bifida, certainly with traumatic brain injury as well, is a sense of self-awareness. The executive function challenges of initiating. So he might recognize that he smelled, but he didn't initiate, I need to take a break right now. Even though it's not noon and it's not my afternoon break, I'm going to trade that up. You have to learn to think flexibly around that. But for folks with executive function, they may not initiate that. So reflecting as people are problem solving, how's this going to work when you're in college or if you're in an employment situation. And again, begin those problem solving practices by thinking it out loud and talking it out loud with your youth from the time they're very young. The other thing is dealing with conflict. My experience is that there's a defensiveness that comes into play, and because an individual and this is from my own work experience with folks, is that what the individual with a disability sees is that I'm different from my work cohort because I have a disability, therefore if something goes wrong, it's my disability that they're unhappy with. And they don't separate that disability from, oh, maybe I could do things differently. Maybe it is the way in which I'm performing something. And as parents, you can help them think through that experience. They're going to encounter conflicts in school. Use your words. Ask, are you unhappy with me because I'm slower? Are you unhappy with me because I am not able to print, or I can't hit the key accurately, or are you uncomfortable with me because I have all this equipment between you and me? And I can tell you that some of my growth as a manager has been from a young woman, her name is Mitch, spastic quadriplegia. And Mitch has really a gift in her ability to reflect back to the individual what her experience has been as a way of clarifying. So, for example, one day she came to me and said, I'd like to speak with you privately. Okay, there's a skill. I wish more people had that, more of my employees had. And then I said, sure, let's, I can do it now, or we can set up a time at 2 o'clock. She said, 2 o'clock works better for me. I said, okay, that's great, come on in. So she came in and she said, I just want to clarify something with you. I wasn't sure when you were saying this, whether you meant such and such. I was feeling kind of compromised, or like if you meant it this way, that it was kind of demeaning. And it gave me the opportunity to say, no, not at all, but thank you for calling it to my attention so that I can be more cognizant of the way in which I'm giving you feedback. That's a growth experience for both of us. And it takes social skills. It takes confidence in self. And she had practiced that with other people in other situations to the point that she could actually model that for other employees who didn't have that skill. I just wanted to mention some local resources that are here in Florida, and your states may have something similar that can be helpful to you as you look at job accommodations and preparation for work. The Florida Assistance for Assistive Technology Devices and Service, every state has a Tech Act project. The purpose of the Tech Act projects is to ensure access to assistive technology for all individuals in their state, all ages, across the spectrum. And they often also help to author legislation. Now, some have gone to nonprofit and they've gone to a narrower scope of practice, but for sure ask. Achieving a Better Life Experience, the ABLE Act, have you heard of that? Passed in 2014. It's a fabulous tool as you think about ways in which you can at least protect some of the income from tax liability and put that toward benefiting that whole life, the equipment that they're going to need, education that they're going to need, etc. So there's a list of qualified disability expenses that money can be used for, but you are able to protect thousands of dollars, really, when you dedicate them to that purpose. It has to be in a specific account, and the type of an account may be labeled different things in your state, but it's all under the ABLE Act. There's a website here, www.myablesavings.com, if you want to check out for more information. Vocational rehabilitation services can be really a great support to you. Your centers for independent living have begun to partner in some states, like in Minnesota, for example, right in the voc rehab centers, so that they can address those other related issues like housing, transportation, maybe guardianship is an issue, and in order to get those wraparounds that you need to be successful in employment as well. Some states also have what's called work readiness. They'll help you write your resume, and they will also, if you're having trouble with an employer, help coach you through so that you can retain your job. And you can practice interviewing with them as well. Other resources that I want to tell you about, one is called Guideposts for Success. The National Collaborative on Workforce and Disability has some fabulous resources online. The National Standards and Quality Indicators is a transition toolkit for systems improvement. Help systems work for all children. I know how fatiguing it is to continually battle, and you feel like you're having the same battle over and over again as you move from one part of the care delivery system to another. But this toolkit is really fabulous. It focuses on making post-secondary education and transition work well for youth. The website, My Next Move, is also a really helpful one. The website called, it's nytc.org/workearly, or you can look them up on YouTube. But they have 3 really great videos about work and employment, and it's individuals with disabilities and employers talking about the work and getting ready for work. And they're entertaining, I think, too. Disability.gov, which is the federal government website, has tons of links to really helpful information about getting ready for employment and finding that job and being able to sustain employment. The ABLE National Resource I have listed here as well. Also, you may be interested in a program called Project Search. It's a 1-year school-to-work program that explores employment with supports. And then another website, and you can begin to use this early. Don't wait till you're getting, in your last year of high school or the last year of the transition program. But ONET has an ability profiler, so you can go on and you can identify what it is that you think that you do well. There's also have an interest profiler. So separate from the skills are the interest. What is it that gives me joy? Is it music? Maybe I'll be a DJ. And then there's the work importance locator and profiler, and that can help you to find individuals that can help you through that employment as well. I would like to just encourage you, again, to think early about ways in which youth can contribute to the environments that they're in from the time that they're really little. Looking at ways in which youth can feel like they are the individual that is impacting, that they are responsible and will be held accountable. I think it is a challenge for youth who are trying to move into an integrated setting, and we want all of our youth with disabilities to have that opportunity to work in integrated settings. But in so many settings in their lives, they have been able to sort of duck responsibility. They're used to accommodations in school where they can be delayed, have less of an assignment, and in some cases that's appropriate. In other cases, it sets them up to think that they don't have to perform at the same level. If we're moving to reasonable reimbursement as a wage, there has to be that equal piece about accountability and responsibility.